was our first time awkward?
Yes. Of course it was awkward.
But it's improved drastically, so that's good. How did you guys meet?
Medical school.
Yeah. So Ibrahim is from Sierra Leone, I'm from St. Lucia, and we both got a scholarship to study medicine in Cuba for 7 years. And apparently, you noticed me in quarantine.
Yeah, I had seen you in quarantine because I can't remember what had happened, but I remember seeing you in quarantine.
That's his first time seeing me, I guess.
Yeah, that was the first time I saw you, and then we ended up being in the same class for like a year.
So the first year in medical school, at least in Cuba, the first 6 months you do just pure Spanish, and then the other 6 months you do like basic science courses in Spanish. And so that very first year we were in the same class, but we weren't like interested in each other or anything like that.
No.
Who made the first move?
I did.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
I did.
Who said I loved you first?
I can't.
I did.
You did?
I did. And you didn't say it back, just for the record. What annoys you the most about each other?
You go first.
What annoys me the most about Ibrahim? He takes too long to tell a story.
Really? The most?
Okay, fine. What annoys me the most are your stink bombs.
Now that's juicy.
No, it's not just.
Okay.
What annoys you the most about me?
What annoys me the most? I think one of the things is...
One of the things?
Well, the most. So I try to think of the most.
Anyways.
One of the things is when you cook or when you're in the kitchen, which you like to do.
I use too much dishes.
Which you like to do.
You
like Lynette literally,
so...
she will literally have 2 dishes cooking, and she will take a clean spoon, taste one dish, and just drop it in the dirty dishes. And when she needs to taste again or taste the other dish, get another clean spoon and taste again. So
I cook, he washes dishes.
Yeah, so yeah.
What was your biggest argument? You remember? You remember our biggest argument?
I think when we were dating.
Yeah, we were in Cuba. We were doing an exam. You don't remember?
Oh!
I don't remember what. I think I remember what.
Like, and
so we
that was a beach or something.
No, we were writing an exam at school.
Oh yeah, that one.
And I think
before the exam.
Yeah, just before the exam, I think I asked you
something, and I was revising or something.
I don't know, but he kind of just shrugged me off or something like that.
Yeah, I was revising or thinking of something. Like I was in the zone, and then she asked me a question, and I didn't answer how you wanted me to answer.
I don't know, but I was livid.
It was funny.
It was very funny.
It was funny now because when we went home, at that time we didn't have a car.
Of course we didn't have a car.
No, we didn't have a car. We were not taking a bus.
We were screaming at each other, like driving at, cycling.
We were cycling, but we were on the same bicycle. You remember that part, right? So we were cycling, we were on the same bicycle.
But anyways, it was very silly. But
it was very silly.
I got really upset, and then he was really upset that I was upset. I think that was the first and the only time we were screaming at each other. We were screaming at each other, and we came and we were just, and then
Yeah, it didn't even last a day.
No, it didn't
But
last
it
long.
was.
It was very
It
silly.
was volcanic.
I think that was really our one and only true
like shouting,
screaming at each other or something
screaming.
like
Yeah.
that was the only time I remember.
And it was very
It
silly.
was very silly.
Like I literally can't even, like you said, can't
yeah,
even,
it was very silly, and
It
we've
was.
never had that strong of an argument after that. Yeah,
It was interesting.
it was. It was. How has being intercultural affected your relationship?
That's a good question.
I
That's a very deep question. I don't think.
I actually don't think it's that deep. You know why? Because I honestly doesn't think it's affected our relationship that much.
No.
I think that in the dating period, maybe deciding if we had wanted to be together in the first
it did.
place, because it would have meant
It had
one of
major
us
implications.
moving
Yeah.
across the world or something like
For
that.
me personally, it did, because it caught me by surprise how much it did. Like I wasn't expecting it to be an issue.
Oh yeah, I remember, but you struggled about dating and getting married to somebody that wasn't African, right?
Yeah, and I didn't know that I would have been an issue. As simple as that was.
But I feel like that.
But then
That was the only
afterwards, it has never really.
I think it's
been much
because
of an issue.
I think it's because when we share the same faith, so much of our values align. We share a lot of interest as well, I think. So I don't. At least up until this point,
and we're open in terms of communicating and discussing things. And before we even started dating, like I knew a lot about you and your family background and where you're from. And before you started dating me, you knew a lot about me as well, because we were all like in the same friend group and things like that.
Yeah, we were friends for a very long time before we
Yeah.
actually started dating. So we got to know each other very well.
Very well.
But I honestly, I don't feel like
No, there hasn't been like, I would say, like a clash
at least
because of
up
social
until
culture.
now.
Yeah.
Up until now. Okay, next one. How did you know he or she was the one? So how did you know I was the one?
That's a good question. I had an epiphany. I just realized that I would prefer not to live the rest of my life without you. Yeah.
Mine wasn't so straightforward, honestly. I remember
No, it was not.
it was not. It was, I struggled. But not because it had nothing to do with you. When Ibrahim and I were friends in the first couple of years, I distinctly remember thinking that because when we met, he was dating, right? So he was off the books for me. Like I was not interested, but I remember thinking that I would like to marry somebody like Ibrahim one day. And wholeheartedly, I was not interested in him at that time. I just had a lot of respect for him. I liked the person that he was, and I wanted to get married to somebody very similar to that. And the problem was that I think I had a lot of bad theology where like marriage was concerned.
Heavens had to open.
Yes.
And a voice had to be heard from above and say, "This is my beloved son. Marry him, for you will do no ill." And that didn't happen for me.
Yeah, so that was basically what I expected. I mean, it sounds dramatic, but that was what I expected. And because it didn't come, and then because of a few other complications that we had in our relationship, it was difficult. Like I knew that I wanted to marry him because of who he was, But then I was waiting for like a sign from God that he was the one.
Oh yeah, that dragged on for a couple of years.
It wasn't years. It was probably like about a year. It was just about a year.
It was a couple of years.
It was about.
She left me hanging, guys.
We broke up for about.
Left me hanging.
It was 10 months.
I had to prove my love.
It was a difficult time. And I struggled with that. But it was not, wholeheartedly, it had nothing to do with you. It was about me and, you know.
Well, that's why I just waited patiently, because, I mean, there is no rush. You just pray and then you just put things in God's hands, and what happens, happens.
Yeah, but eventually I felt peace. It took a lot of praying, a lot of seeking God, a lot of speaking to friends and family members and trusted mentors, and eventually I felt peace.
And elderly women.
Yeah. What's your love language?
My love language is... What's my love language?
His love language is quality time.
Oh.
And quality time and words of affirmation.
Okay.
But quality time, I think, had a few more points.
To me, you speak one language.
My love language is gifts, okay?
And services.
And acts of service.
Acts of service.
Yeah.
So there are tools online that you could do, like various tests.
It's a book. It's called The 5 Love Languages, and it's by Gary Chapman. I can have it linked in the description box if you're interested. And then there's a free online like quiz you can do to find out what's your love language. We would definitely recommend. I think it's very helpful.
It's very helpful in terms of communication between two partners, because one person could be showing their love in one way and somebody could be doing it another way, and then they could just be like, oh, you don't love me.
Yeah. How do you have hard conversations? I would say you just have to have it. You just have to do it. You just have to talk about it. But I also think you have to be willing to hear the other person's point of view. I think you also have to be willing to admit that, you know, you're wrong if that's the case. And I also think that you have to be respectful at the end of the day. Like you can't have those conversations and be disrespectful or mean or
derogatory.
Exactly. Like you
condescending.
You have to respect the other person's point of view, their feelings. Oh, and that's another thing too. Another thing I would say in terms of having hard conversations is that you have to realize that while all feelings are felt, they're not necessarily true. Or it's not necessarily the truth, in the sense that I could feel hurt by what you did. And the feeling of hurt that I have is true and genuine. But it doesn't necessarily mean that what you did was hurtful. You know? And I feel like that's it's very important to understand. Like it's possible for you, for example, to misinterpret something that I did and be hurt by that, but it might not necessarily be that what I did was particularly hurtful or intentional. But I think it's important for both parties to understand both sides. So I think that it's important. So even if what you did was not intentional, I feel like you still have to be empathetic to the fact that I felt hurt. But at the same time, I still need to be open to the fact that maybe what you did, although I felt hurt, was not necessarily, you know, meant in a bad way. At the end of the day, the bottom line is that you have to have the hard conversation.
One of the things that I learned is that most persons or most people don't really know what a conversation is. That most times when people want to talk about things, especially in a relationship setting, it's not really a conversation, is it? It's more of a lecture, or one person trying to come to convince the other person of something. So the conversation is not an open conversation. Like there's hardly an approach of an open-mindedness to it. It's one person might feel, whether partly or, you know, entirely, that they're right and the other person is wrong, and they present in a situation that needs to be addressed, but you know, they have a point. So you can't have an open conversation.
And then you ended
like
up thinking of your rebuttals
But
while
that's
the person
exactly
is talking
what
and you're not even listening to what they're saying.
that's exactly what it was saying, that when you have an open conversation, you genuinely want to listen to what the other person has to say. You believe that you have something to learn, that you have something to gain. And as simple as that concept is, it can be very difficult for some people, especially if they believe that my way is right, or the way that I'm used to doing it is right. And sometimes it's hard for people to go back and be like, it's possible that I might not be right, or it's possible that what my partner or my spouse is saying, they might have a point. But when you go and have conversations and both parties have that open-mindedness to just discuss, just lay things out, then you begin to encompass the other things in terms of vulnerability. You begin to get vulnerable, because then you begin to lay things out that you yourself might not be aware of, why you do certain things, or why it is that you think in certain ways. You might think, oh, it's biblical, but is it really? Is it more influenced by your culture or your upbringing than it is by scripture?
All right, last one. How do you maintain intimacy with young kids?
There we go.
I think you just have to be intentional. I think you just have to be creative. I think creative is the best word.
Yeah. Creative
and intentional. I think you have to be creative in terms of when and how long sometimes. And you also have to be intentional, and I speak for women because I think that motherhood can sometimes be all-encompassing. I always tell Ibrahim that, like, you see women and they dating and they're posting photos of them and the guy, and then suddenly the baby comes along and now it's the love of my life, and it's all
attention of the baby. Yeah.
And I think it's hard, because I think as a mother, the love that you feel for your kids is fierce, and you want to do what's best for them. And then when they're young, they need you. It's not that you don't have an option. They need to be breastfed. They need their pampers changed. They need a snack. They need something to do. Yeah. So like, their need for you can be all encompassing. And so as a mother, I think, as a mother and a wife, you have to be intentional to not let your mind space and your energy be consumed with just taking care of the kids. So date nights are really good. Having the kids have a bedtime so that you can have
bedtime
evenings together, or paying for a nanny or a babysitter or somebody that you trust to care for the kids, even if it's once a month or twice a month, so that you guys can have some time on your own. I think putting away the phone sometimes and not watching so much TV and shows, not that it's a bad thing, but sometimes I think, you need to talk.
That's a good point.
You need to talk.
Like, spending time together is not us together watching sometimes a movie.
Yeah.
There's a place for that, but it can't be every single time.
Yeah.
Because
so that's my advice. One, to be creative, and to be intentional about it.
And of course, it's going to also be different depending on the different stages in which you are. It's different for the newborn, when you have like the newborn phase. So when the child is like between 2 months, 3 months, even up to about 6 months.
All right, so that was our little Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're interested in seeing something very similar, then I'll have linked our Agree to Disagree video. That was very fun. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.